Hello guys, let's try and build a shell now. I just did a video about making a mortar. If you haven't watched that, you can watch that in the playlist. But now we want to do a shell that we can put into this mortar. So let's make a 3-inch shell. The way we start, as always, is to create a entity definition, because that is what is defining what basically representing this item in the inventory. So we do a fireworks entity again. Let's say Mania shell 3-inch first shell. So as always, let's select it and let's take a look over here. We need a unique ID. We can type something ourselves, but we can also click up here and just set ID to file name, and then it will get the same name as that one here, which is a perfect fit. We need a prefab. We'll create that in a moment. We need to give it a name, 3-inch first shell. And as we are typing here, we can see it's complaining a lot. It's just spamming errors. But what is it? Is it saying missing entity definition type on Mania shell 3-inch first shell? So if we click it, we can see which definition have the problem. It's this one, and it's missing a entity definition type. Entity definition type. Fun enough, we haven't set that. Again, remember these errors are here to help you. So we click here, we can't see anything. We just click the eye over here, and then we can select shell. Perfect. And then we can clear this out and all should be good. We wait with the sprite till we created the shell, and we're gonna wait with the prefab because that's what we're gonna create now. So in the scene view over here, you right click, Fireworks Mania, template, fireworks, and we have a 3-inch a shell 3-inch template. Bam. As I said before, you can either rename it here or you can do it whenever it's a prefab down here. I'll just do it right here, but it doesn't really matter when you are doing it. So we say Mania shell 3-inch first shell prefab. Again, naming is totally up to you. Right now it's not a prefab, we need to make it this blue little icon thingy, and we do that by dragging it from up here and down to prefabs. So now we have a prefab of our shell. As I said before, the shell you want to modify is the one down here, meaning you need to double click it to get it open in the prefab editor thingy here. You don't want to edit this one up here under the scene thing. That you just created here. You actually want to delete that, because making changes to that is only making changes to that instance of it and not the actual prefab that is used in the game. And then suddenly you made changes and you building the mod, and you can't understand why it's not being shown in the game as you changed it. But that's because you need to change this one. Okay, so how do we edit that? As always, we double click it and get into the prefab view here. Selecting the top root node here, we can see that it have a shell behavior. Again, funny enough, exactly the same as cake behavior or mortar behavior. That's the same pattern that I'm following here. And this one have a little more stuff on it, which I hope I can remember what each thing is, because it's been a while since I created this. So we forget about all the other stuff, and then we start out by the first one here. So the first one is something that we recognize for all the other ones, is the entity definition. As always, the prefab itself, which is the one that is being made an instance of in the game, needs to have a reference to the definition, and the definition have to have a reference to this prefab. So let's set that up right away. So let's click this little icon here, and let's find the Mania shell 3-inch right here. We can also then select this one here, and now we have to select the prefab that we need to go into the definition. And as I mentioned last time, be aware of assets and scenes, because you can quickly get confused, because you would think that you should use this one, but by doing that you get a type mismatch, because you're actually not adding the prefab here, you were adding an instance of the prefab. You're adding actually this one over here. So what we do is we go to assets. If you want to do it like this, search for whatever name you put. Again, prefixing with your nickname makes it much easier to find. And then you pick the shell from here. And the way you can see it is that it's blue, first of all, and you can also see that the path down here actually fits where we located it. We know it's in the tutorial mod, and we know it's in the prefabs folder, and we know this is the name, and it's called .prefab at the end. So this is the one we want to have. Double click that one, and then it's in there, no errors. Perfect. Yeah. So let's get back to editing the prefab here. So now we have the pointers correctly from prefab to the definition, and from the definition to the prefab. So now everything is set up correctly. And because we're using the template, everything else should also be set up correctly. Now I'm just going through it so you know what different things is. So the fuse, you can click it and you can see it's being highlighted over here. So the fuse here is the standard fuse that I'm using. It can be any fuses, but I'm using the standard one here. Let's see if we can make it a little smaller. Yeah, okay, we can. So there is a fuse here, and you can also see, if I rotate it, you can see that the fuse have an arrow here, and a yellow arrow pointing forward. And that is important because a shell, you have to understand that a shell can be ignited in two ways. It can be ignited outside a mortar or inside a mortar. If it's ignited outside a mortar, it will be this model here, and it will use this fuse up here. Whereas if it's inside a mortar, it's a different game. It's using another fuse technically, but you know, from a player's point of view, it's just the same. But when you're making it, it's actually a different thing, due to how it's built, and trying to make it a little more optimized, you could say. This shell here is not very beautiful with this weird thick fuse. You just do your model with a much better looking fuse, and then you place this fuse standard here at the end of your fuse, and then you have your fuse. Anyway, so the fuse, we don't have to go into that. Let's go back to the top one. So that was the fuse. That is where you need to ignite it when it's outside a mortar. Then we have the diameter. That kind of makes sense. That's how big the shell is. Then we have the model. And this one, I don't know if I put a tooltip on it. No, I didn't. Maybe I should do that. Can't see anything. But the model here, that is the, you can see it's selecting this one. This is the top. This is the game object containing the visual things of the shell, as I remember. So if I hide this, everything goes away. You can't see anything. And inside that, there is the shell dummy, which is the model here. This is the one you would actually rebuild your own model and then replace this one with your own. Then your shell would look custom to you. And then the fuse. And these two here under this one, or this entire object, needs to be hidden once the shell goes off. Then this one needs to be hidden because in real life it's exploding, but in the game it's kind of being hidden while your effect is running. So that's why I need a reference to that model so I can hide that once that is going on. So this needs to be set to this model, kind of a parent node of all the visual parts. Then there is the next one, which is very special for this one. We don't have that in the other ones because model, I think we have that in the rocket's behavior too. So this is the model mesh render. So this is specifically this one representing the visuals of this shell. Like not the fuse and not whatever you could have, but the actual shell, the mesh render. So why do I need that? Well, this is used, you can see actually here, reference to the mesh render of the actual shell model used to render shell loaded into mortar. And this is because once you put this into a mortar, you would like to see this model in the bottom of the mortar. And you would think, yeah, you already have it, just put it in and let it slide down. Yeah. But as you can see, this one have a lot of stuff on it, and due to some technical networking thing and performance and whatever, it's better to just have a stupid model in the bottom that just looks like this one is inside it. I don't know if this is too much information for you. Anyway, just know that the model mesh renderer need to be here, because by having this, I can show this one in the bottom of whatever mortar you put it in. If you made, I don't know actually how exactly how Panini's one worked, if you used that before. But one of the difference at least is that, and why this might be a little more complicated, is that with a Panini's, as I understand it, he pre-made some mortars and then you could create shells, which is fine. But this setup, you can both create, or some modders can create a set of mortars, while some other modders can create a set of shells that you can then put into these mortar. It's kind of a little more dynamic system, but that also makes it a little more complicated. But once it's working, it's much more flexible, and yeah, you can mix and match things, which we also get to the fuse part in a moment. But anyway, then we have the effect settings, the ground launch force. So this is the amount of force applied to the shell if it's ignited on the ground. So you know, oh wait a second, is it that I should put tooltips on so I could remember myself? But I think it's both used to kind of makes this jump a little when it fires off on the ground, but I also think it's used to it's using this amount. Oh, sorry, I should have checked that beforehand. We could do that. Maybe we can just check it right away. Ground launch force. Let's just see what that does, because I would actually like to know. Ground force here. So let's see what that is used for. And the answer should not be nothing. Ah, it's the start speed. Ah, okay. Okay, yes. So that's the start speed of that. So it's the start speed of the module. Interesting. Okay, so it's actually used also to when you're putting stuff into a mortar and it needs to be shot up in the air. I think this one is also used for that, to how far it shoots up things. You can experience with it. I can't remember right now. It's been like a year since I made this or something like that. Anyway, then we have the actual effect. This is typically where you wanna, once you did your model and all that, this is where you wanna spend your time, because this is the actual effect you can see here. And you can also, and maybe a different thing you didn't expect it, is that, let's not outline and let's see here. So the effect you can see here is actually shooting upwards. So the shell, you know, normally the shell effect would just, you know, in real life, the shell would just be an explosion, but you have to think about the shell in the game here is a combination of the upward force, like it's shooting up in the air, and then the actual effect going off in the air here. Which is kind of also like a real shell, because as far as I know, even though I don't know much about fireworks, this little thing in the bottom is actually the explosive stuff that shoots this one up in the air, and then after a while this one explodes and makes the effect. So you can think about it like that. Shooting up and then the effect goes off. And the thing is that this upward force is being used to calculate some other stuff here. Anyway, so this is most likely where you want to spend your time with the effect. Next thing is the prefab for launch mortar. Okay, so we have the launch effect prefab, and this is because when it, you see, when it shoots out here, this pure effect is just the shooting up and then the effect. But when it's launched off a mortar, you typically see it have this kind of launch effect thing. And we can actually open up this one and then we can see, yeah, let's just save that. And then you can see here, where is it? So you have this effect here. Let's try and take down the speed so we can see what's going on. Oh, that's a weird effect. Does that look right? I think it used to look different. Anyway. So this is apparently the launch effect that this one is using. Let's see how it looks in game in a moment. But anyway, let's go back to prefab and the shell. So we have that launch particle effect. I think it looks a bit weird. I don't think it used to look like that. Let's see in the game in a moment. And then we have the unwrapped shell fuse prefab. And this is a little interesting. And it kind of makes sense in real life and maybe not. So this one here is the unwrapped shell fuse. So when this one, right now if you ignite it on the ground like this, it will just use quote unquote this fuse here. It's not really using this fuse, it's using this little fuse right here to ignite it. But if you put it into a mortar, this one needs to be kind of unwrapped to go, up and hang over the edge of the mortar. And if you've seen the video about making a mortar, you remember there is this pivot point or this unwrapped fuse pivot point, and that is where this unwrapped fuse is spawned. So this unwrapped shell fuse 3-inch, you can see if we open that, you can see it looks like this, and this is the one you are seeing in the game. It have an ignition position. You can see here, where you can see the forward direction is this yellow one, which is important because the fuse might shoot if particles outside the front of the fuse, so that's why it needs to point the right direction, which in this case is this way down. I know it's very complicated, but just play around with it and you will figure it out. And then there is this pivot point. So this is the point of the fuse. Now you could make your own model here, make your own version of this. And then this pivot point, that's where it will be hanging over the edge, if that makes sense. And then we have the, some components here that represents that. So going back to the prefab, I don't know if this is very well described. It is a complex thing, but play around with it and you will figure it out, I think. So this one is just pointing to a standard one in the mod tools, and I recommend you using all these standard ones and make it work, and then change one thing at the time. So like, first change your shell so it looks differently, but still uses my stupid looking unwrapped fuse thing. And then once that is working and you saved your project and you backed it up, then you change it and try and do your own unwrapped fuse prefab, where you just, you can, I think we have a template for that too. Yeah, you can have this. No, that's not it. Let's see, template parts. Don't we have that? Yes, unwrap fuse film template. So you can see we have a template here where you can actually do your own and then drag it down and make your own prefab and stuff like that. But now we're inside a shell prefab, so we don't want to have it in there. So let's remove it. Oh my god, this video is so confusing. But anyway, now I've done the first version, and then we'll see if what questions you have, and then I try to do maybe a little more detailed one. But this is basically what a shell behavior consists of, all of these things. So because we're using the template here, it's pretty easy because it didn't change anything, as you can see. But then of course it's also very boring because it's just a default template thing. So we built the mod. Let's go in here and let's try and go in, and now we should load up our 3-inch mortar and our 3-inch shell. Let me take a sip of coffee here. So we find our first 3-inch mortar, place that down, and then we find we also forgot the icon here, but you see again, it's snapping here, and this works for everything because the system is built as it is. You can use, so you see goes down there, and if we look down, we should see, you can see, it's a little hard to see, but you can see there is a visual representation of the shell down there. It have a fuse down there, but yeah. But that is the mesh rendering thing you saw before, so it's rendered down there. And now we should be able to ignite this. Okay, the effect was actually as it's shown there. Maybe it's just on the, what if we take, let's just take, I think it's on the bigger ones, it's a different effect, isn't it? So yeah, I think there used to be some kind of fire thing. Yeah, you can see there's a little fire going out there. But that's apparently not on the small one. Okay. No, it's not. But it might be okay. Anyway, it works. We just need the icon. So let's just fix that quickly. So we go to the prefabs, we find our shell, right click, Fireworks Mania, general preview, perspective and front. Let's see how that looks. Looks like that. Let's try the other one. Back. So it's like that. We'll take this one. And then we take it to icons. We go to the definitions here and we find our sprite. There we go. Boom. And then we build the mod. And then we should see in the game here it's detected. Yes. And then we go here. Here, and then you can just play around with the settings and stuff like that and see what does what and how it works and everything. Experiment with stuff. Let's see. It works, and we also have a nice little picture now, a little icon of it. So that's pretty cool. Again, don't put this shell on the workshop because we will have a million of them and that's not really interesting. So make your own model, change the effect, do some stuff to make it unique to you, and then put it on the workshop, which I will do another video about how to do that. But yeah, that's it for now. That was the shell in a quick video of 22 minutes, but I hope it made a little sense and at least can get you started making shells. And then I will try and maybe make it a little easier to understand, make another video maybe, but try it out with this one first and let's see what you think. Let me know in the comments what you think so I can improve it and maybe make it a little more simple. Anyway, see you in the next one and happy modding. Bye.